Welcome back to the Talk Nats podcast. My name is Kevin Nibley, and we are sponsored by Old DC Apparel. Head on over to shopoldDC.com. Some of the coolest, most original DC fan shirts and hats you'll find. Also running a charity promotion for the 2026 Washington Post Layoff Fund. 100% of all of our charity shirts will go to that fund for the laid off Post employees. You can subscribe to us as always on YouTube at TalkNats Podcast. That's also our handle on X, and the audio version is available on every major podcast outlets. So normally I don't get too into spring training results, but at this point, looking at the team 11-4, with a couple ties in there, I think you have to be mildly encouraged about what you're seeing. Seaver King's having a nice camp. He looked like a lost prospect not too long ago now. I've heard some people arguing that he should be on the opening day roster at second base. I think that's getting a little carried away, but in general, I think it's safe to say that as a fan, you can be mildly encouraged by what you've seen down in West Palm. And in our next episode, we're going to take a deeper dive into the spring training and what's been going on down there. But this week, we are going to go back to part 2 of our episode with former Nats great, the Chief, Chad Cordero. We ended the last episode where he was talking about his closer's mindset and his need to be a quote-unquote asshole on the mound and how that served him. So we're going to pick up where we left off, talking with Nationals great Chad Cordero. Do you feel like a closer needs to kind of have that moxie, like that confidence? Is that, because there have been guys, obviously, that have come through certain teams and they have all the stuff, but they just don't have the mental makeup maybe to be a closer. Do you think that's a really important part of the job?
I think so, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's different. You're only trying to get 3 outs, but the eighth inning and ninth inning, those are two different animals. The majority of the time you're facing the middle of that lineup in the ninth inning. So you're facing their big guns. They're big hitters
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to find anything and you can to give you that advantage. And also too in the seventh or eighth inning, you have a couple more innings to kind of, if you give it up, you have a couple more innings for your offense to come back and
Mhm.
secure that win. The ninth inning, especially if you're on the road, you give it up, game's over, you're going home. On the next day. So you really have no margin for error in the ninth inning. So you have to kind of just do whatever you can to, you know, um, to step up and get those last 3 outs because, like I said, if you're on the road, you have no wiggle room to give up to give up any runs, because then your team doesn't have a chance to come back. Whereas the seventh inning, you kind of do. So ninth inning it's different, So you have to whatever you need to do to give you
Mhm.
that advantage against a hitter, you have to make sure you do.
No, cool. Now, I mean, you had an amazing career for the Nats. Unfortunately, ran into some shoulder issues, like some injuries. Pitchers are babied a lot more now than maybe
Mhm.
back when you were, do you ever think like, or I guess a better way for me to phrase it, do you feel like maybe you were pushed too hard or you push yourself too hard, or would you rather maybe played in an era like now where they are way more cognizant, it seems, of pitch counts and things like that?
Honestly, like for me, like I wish I would have had a longer career, but at the same time, like I had a chance to play in the big leagues, So
Mhm.
for me, I wouldn't have changed anything in the world. If I did, you know, um, maybe spend a little more time in the minor leagues, to kind of build up my arm a little bit because I went from throwing 30 games at Cal State Fullerton to now I'm throwing, between 65 and 75 games
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
pretty much that same year, so my arm didn't really have a chance to kind of get used to how tough the schedule really is because you have no off days. Because even there was even days where even if I didn't go in the game, a lot of times I was warming up. So those 70 games I would throw turn into about 100 games because of all the
Yeah,
all the times that I'm warming up and not going in.
yeah.
So obviously so for me. I wish I would have had a little more time to develop, in the minor leagues. But at the same time, I made it up in a month and a half, and I would never change that in the world.
No, cool. Yeah. Now we've talked a little bit about the Nats going into this year. Still kind of seems like a rebuilding year. I think at the moment they have in their bullpen maybe two career saves. Is, do you feel we pose this question to Storn and Clifford as well? I mean, do you feel like going into a season the relievers need to know their roles. Like you're the closer, you're the setup guy, you're the long guy, you're who pitches when we're behind, when we're losing, you're the like the A bullpen and the B bullpen. I mean, do you feel like those roles are important to have defined going into a season?
I mean, I think it helps, but I think in a situation like with the Nationals are facing this year, if
Hmm.
they go in knowing that like, hey, you guys can throw at any given time, I think that's going to be okay for them.
Okay.
But having a defined role definitely helps. Like I said, if you go into the season knowing, okay, I might throw the ninth, I might throw the eighth, I might throw the seventh, you're going to be able to prepare a little bit because now you're going to be able to prepare. You're going to have to be prepared, be ready to go a little bit earlier. But if you know that going into the season, I think that's going to help. Now, if they just go in there not knowing what's going on and they're throwing in, every one, maybe one game in the seventh, one game in the ninth, that's a little bit different. But if they go in knowing that, hey, I might come in the seventh, I might come in the eighth or the ninth, I think that's going to help them out a little bit more.
Well, now you were able to come back in 2019 with Brian Schneider and throw out the first pitch in Game 3 of the World Series. Take us through that. What was that like to return for such a huge game?
I was probably more nervous doing that than I ever was, playing in the big leagues, because
Yeah.
that's a big stage, and me as a kid, not I never thought I was going to be able to throw that first pitch, in a World Series, and here I am coming back to a city and doing a bunch in front of a fan base um, that I played for. It meant so much. I remember that whole day because I remember we flew in the same day that I threw out the first pitch, and
Mhm.
I was nervous from the time I woke up. Actually, I don't even know if I even slept the night before. Um, but from the time I got up to the time I after I threw the pitch, I was super nervous. My hands were shaking. I was getting all sweaty and stuff, and but it was awesome, and to have my dad there at the same time to be able to experience that with me meant the world as
Oh,
well,
cool.
because
Yeah.
he's always been a huge supporter of me, and so being able to bring him along for the ride was, it meant so much to me and to him, and then to have Brian there with me as well, like the guy that another person that I owe my career to,
Hmm.
it made that even more special.
Now, excuse me, you say you owe your career to Brian Schneider. Please tell me more about that. What is that? Well, I mean, what does that mean? I assume obviously you liked him as a
Uh,
catcher, just to say
yeah,
that, right? Yeah.
I mean, he understood. He understood how who I was as a pitcher, and he was always so encouraging. Even if I didn't have my best day, he'd always find a way to make sure that I knew that, hey, we're okay. And that meant a lot. A lot of times, I knew what he was when he was calling pitches. I knew what he was going to put down before he even started putting his fingers down to call the
Hmm.
pitch.
Yeah.
Because we were able to kind of get so comfortable with each other and understand what we're trying to do that it was easy for me to throw to him. And like I said, and having a catcher who is encouraging, who knows how to pick you back up when you're not having your best day, that means a lot, and that helped that as a pitcher. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that.
Cool. Now, let us know, like, so, when your Nationals career ended, obviously, I understand you're a coach at the moment. Like, what's
Mhm.
your life like in baseball now? Obviously, you've stayed with it, obviously. What are you up to?
Well, right now I'm not coaching baseball right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually moving on to softball now. So
Mhm.
I've been coaching softball for the last couple of years, coaching my daughter's travel team, and now I got pulled into helping out with her JV team for high school.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's what I've been doing, and I love it. It's yes, it's not baseball, but softball to me, how it is, reminds me of old school baseball. Lots of bunting, and there's a lot of strategy still. You're stealing. You're not waiting for that home run that may never come. You're trying to make stuff
Hmm.
happen on the bases, and I love that kind of stuff. Because when I was at Cal State Fullerton, that's the type of team that we had.
Hmm.
We had guys who knew it doesn't matter if you were the 3, 4, or 5 hole hitters. If you had a bunt, you were gonna bunt, and I love that kind of stuff. This is also softball. Kind of reminds me of how baseball was when I was still playing,
Yeah.
and stuff. And also too, like what I love about it most is helping them hopefully get to where they're trying to go to, because they're at the age where they are recruiting age. So getting to talk to schools for them, helping them understand, hey, what it takes to, to make sure you're getting to, get your grades, picking the right school for you, and not just going to a fancy name because it's a fancy name.
Mhm.
Understand you got to, helping them understand that, hey, you got to make sure you're going to a place that's going to be the best for you, and making sure they have the right major. The city is good for them, and all that kind of stuff. And I love recruiting. I love talking to coaches, or college coaches. So I love it.
Cool, cool. Now, I guess just we're getting close to out of time, but there've been a lot of rule changes. You were talking about old school baseball. Baseball's changed a lot, in since you've retired. I mean, would you have liked to pitch in an era with a challenge system or with the pitch clock, things like that? How would you have dealt with that?
Um, I don't know if I would have. I mean, I don't mind the challenges and stuff. I think it's slow it down just a little bit. But I don't know. I guess I would have adapted with it. But obviously, like coming from an era we didn't have that kind of stuff, I kind of like the human element of it. Like if the umpire made a bad call, I get it. Like, hey, he may have missed it. Yeah, he might be upset, but hey, that's what he saw. He might be wrong, but it is what it is. Like, you just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't mind that kind of stuff. But I think with how much money is involved in baseball now and how big baseball is, I think having a challenge system, I think it's the right move for right now. And so
Mhm.
I wouldn't have minded it. Um, but it would have taken some time to get used to it. Like anything. But at the same time, I think I would have embraced it. But like I said, I didn't mind all the how slow baseball was. I didn't mind if an umpire got a call wrong. It's just part of the game, and I kind of like that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know as a fan, it's kind of like it used to be you go it's like 3.5 hour experience. Now it's especially if it's a low scoring game now,
Yeah.
it's like 2 hours. And you're like, hey, like
Yep.
what, yeah, right. But yeah, so we're almost out of time, but just let us know, our listeners know how they can keep up with you on social media, like anything you want to promote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. I think
Okay.
it's just Chad Cordero 32. That's it. I don't really post a whole lot. It's usually just me. If I do post, it's usually my kids and
Mhm.
stuff, and or maybe some flashbacks from like years ago, but that's rare. So like I guess I don't really post a whole lot. It's usually myself or my kids, out there playing, or highlights of them doing stuff, but that's about it. So if you want to keep up with that, great. But yeah, that's about it, and just kind of enjoying, or you can follow along with our our softball team if you want to do that. I think it's just,
Cool.
what is it, USA Athletics, Cordero Lopez is what we're called. So if you want to follow along with that, great. We would love your support, and yeah, thank you very much.
Cool. Well, thanks, Chad. I appreciate it, and talk to you soon for sure.
All right, thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
All right, that was our episode. Thanks again to Chad. That was super cool. That story about throwing out the first pitch at the World Series, in 2019, and how he couldn't sleep the night before, and the insight on how much his catcher Brian Schneider meant to him. I mean, you don't really necessarily hear pitchers these days talk about, catchers building their careers and giving catchers that much credit for the type of careers they've had. So that was a really nice nugget. And thanks again to Chad for doing the show. And please follow him on all of his networks. Please visit talknats.com and shopoldec.com. They are the two entities that bring the show to you every week. And yeah, as I mentioned, we're going to shift gears a little bit from the former player episodes. We're gonna be talking next week with a local reporter about spring training. I will make that a surprise, and you'll see who it is next Friday. And then we do have some heavy hitters on deck. I can't tell you just yet, but we're going to have a couple episodes where you're going to be like, whoa, how'd they get that person? So we're excited about that. They are lined up, and they should be coming to you probably around opening day, maybe a touch after. But until then, thanks as always for listening, and go Nats.